So, it looks like we've showed up a few turns into this game. I don't know so much about Gen 5 OU, so I'll be trying to get some of the bigs here to help me out. But it looks like we've got Sunstall versus, just some sort of standard rain offense. You got your classic Polytoad, has Hypnosis, doesn't reveal much about it. You got your Tornadus, you got your Tentacruel, spinners are really good when you can get them. And that's why ABR is running Fortress on a Sunstall team, trying to remove those hazards. I'm just going to tweet this out real quick so people know that it's happening with my phone, which is somewhere. I'll be right back. You guys watch the game. Where's my phone? Right. Found my phone. Okay, so went to Ninetales on the U-turn. So Dice just, correctly not going for Focus Blast or anything silly, just getting in his Polytoad. So Scald on the Chansey switch in, then a Ferrothorn on the Chansey. Ferrothorn takes a lot of damage, but but Dice is just trying to get up hazards. Xatu is going to make that really hard for him, so he uses the chance to pivot into Tentacruel to try and get the Rapid Spin off. I'm not sure if that's the best pivot in the world. Because I would expect Xatu to have a Psychic type move, but looks like it doesn't. ABR just lets Dice get the Rapid Spin off for weather control. Probably going to want to switch this Ninetales out, or do whatever it can do to Polytoad on the switch-in. Dice doesn't really have better switch-ins to Ninetales than Polytoad. Resets his weather. Yo, what's up, Bush Tush? Bush? Okay, we might get some Bush Tush soon. But he goes into Volcarona. Doesn't want the Polytoad to get burned. Smart play. And now you could probably go from Volcarona into Polytoad, set up the rain. Ninetales, unlikely to go for Will-O-Wisp a second time, because if Volcarona just quiver dances here, it could be real trouble for ABR's team. ABR doesn't really have a fire resist, besides Ninetales and Chansey, neither of which really appreciate taking +1 sun boosted Fire Blast, but ABR goes Chansey. Volcarona does boost up, so really smart play from Dice there, recognizing that ABR was going to read the Polytoad switch in, want to preserve his weather, and wouldn't pressure the Volcarona. No, I can't hear you, Bush. Do I have you muted? I don't have you muted. I just can't hear a word you're saying. I think it's on your end because your circle's not becoming green. I would quit Discord and rejoin. Okay, so doesn't go for any damage there. Just wants to get in Ferrothorn for free, start getting up the hazards. Can't do that because of the Xatu in the back, so probably just going to push damage into the Xatu. The Xatu switching is so obvious, so you probably want to see a Gyro Ball here, or just a knockoff, taking away Xatu's Rocky Helmet. Ferrothorn not going to be too bothered by that, just healing it off real quick. That looked like less damage than I would expect Rocky Helmet to do. 1/6. No, that's correct. No. Seems like less damage than I would expect Rocky Helmet to do. Interesting. But Zatu just Nightshades on the Polytoad switching. So now Dice has set up the rain, but you have to expect that ABR is gonna U-turn out into Chansey, find a time to switch in Ninetales. So it's gonna be really hard to figure out. Ooh, and Dice goes for the kind of reckless Hypnosis right into the Zatu slot. He knows Zatu's switching out, but still really aggressive. And gets in Tentacruel, ready to Rapid Spin Chansey's Stealth Rocks, which has revealed, and Chansey just revealed his fourth move. Soft-boiled, heals himself back up to full. So Dice's main breaker here is going to be Volcarona. If Dice can deal with the Chansey, or put it at like 50 and have a few layers up, it's going to be in a really good position. But it's going to be hard for Dice to engineer that type of situation. Goes for Toxic, but you know, as we know, Chansey has Natural Cure. Not going to really be bothered by this Toxic. Ooh, my neck's rough, dude. So I maybe would like to see a Protect from the Tentacruel. Nails, if you want, you can join call. I don't know enough about Gen 5 OU to really commentate this to perfection, but I would expect to see, you know, ABR either try and protect his Chansey. Chansey doesn't have Wish, interestingly enough, so any damage Ninetales takes is going to be permanent, except for any leftovers that Ninetales may have. So that makes it hard for ABR to really... ABR's most healing Pokemon is this Chansey. All of his other Pokemon take chip from everything, and the chip stays on. So Chansey sets up the Stealth Rock so you can switch Ninetales in. If Ninetales comes in here, it would probably be facing a Rapid Spin. Dice Scalds because he knows that that's a possibility, but now I'd expect to see a Rapid Spin. Just get rid of the rocks, Ninetales coming in. But Toxic's on the Ninetales switching. Really excellent. Chansey revealed that it doesn't have...
Hello?
Yo, what's up, Chris?
Hey.
So that
laundry.
Did you see that Toxic play from Dice?
I was about to go back and watch the game, actually.
Oh, he just did it on turn 19. He, scalded a Chansey, twice. And then Toxic'd on the Ninetales switching. It was really quite excellent. And then just protected there, burned a PP of Will-O-Wisp. Scouts what the Ninetales is doing. Not too terrible. Chansey doesn't have Heal Bell.
It doesn't?
No.
We know the move's Toxic. Yeah, it doesn't do that.
So that's going to make this really hard for ABR. I don't know how he's going to manage with this. And Dice gets the Rapid Spin off on the Chansey. Now, this position's kind of awkward for Dice because he needs to get the rain up. Without the rain, Tentacruel's going to be taking damage, and because it's burned, any damage it takes from Seismic Toss is going to be permanent.
Ninetales is 57%, and it's never going to be able to get the health back. As long as, you play aggressive with the Polytoad.
Well, Crest might have Lunar Dance. That's what I'm looking at.
That might be the case, but it's kind of it's how I see it in these kind of games, the situation's always going to bring back to, the Ninetales getting Toxic, or, taking too much damage.
Yeah.
Dice just has a good team for this matchup, in my opinion.
Does he? I didn't know that. The Toxic on Tentacruel definitely is really helping him out. Without Toxic on Tentacruel, I think he would be in a really bad spot. Here, I think Dice is probably going to... I wanted him to set up, but of course he can't. You know, Zatu coming in for free on Ferrothorn, not going to take too much damage. Probably heavily physically invested. Dice gets in the Tentacruel, but now it's going to be taking chip. I think ABR has a really good chance of taking this.
You think ABR does?
Yeah. The Tentacruel is because every point of damage the Tentacruel takes from now on is permanent. So Chansey beats Tentacruel 1-on-1. So here Chansey can just kind of oh wow, okay, interesting. But like Chansey can just kind of seismic toss the Tentacruel and it'll get KO'd kind of quickly. Here Ninetales switched in, did 6% to Tentacruel, took 0%. Right? Chansey's back in. Tentacruel's taking 6 every turn. Just gets rocks up.
Oh, Chansey has the rocks. Okay, that makes it interesting actually.
Yeah, so Chansey has the rocks, which makes the Tentacruel take a ton of damage all the time. Just, tries to get the Toxic off on that Politoed. Revealed Hypnosis protects, so probably not Rest. And, you can just go Xatu every time on the Ferrothorn, but Dice brings in the Excadrill. So Xatu's probably going to want to switch out into Fortress or Gliscor, goes into Fortress, Excadrill spin. So Dice running a double spin team. Pretty interesting.
Yeah, that's double spin for the Volk and the Torn.
Hold up, I gotta go take this. You take over.
Okay. So Torrents are usually specs on these kind of styles of teams just to have more offense, and that looks like specs damage, I think. I don't really know Torrent calcs very well versus Crest, but I'm assuming the Crest is super bulky. And
if Hurricane does 26 to a Chansey, then that's specs Torn.
Yeah,
and gets the confusion rule, but Chansey gonna be able to soft-boil all that damage off.
Oh, well, we got fusion turns now. One more? I got it.
Okay. But Chansey's still confused. If it so you're probably gonna see Chansey soft-boiled here, gets hurt in confusion. But now I'd like to see Chansey try and get rocks off. Goes into Ninetales instead.
Back to Torn. Interesting.
Gonna be hard for Dice to hit this Hurricane. So just goes for U-turn. I want to see Ninetales switch out. Yeah, it goes into Gliscor. Does Gliscor get Toxic Heal in this game?
Yeah, I guess Toxic Heal.
Okay, because it doesn't in Gen 4.
Gen 4 doesn't get it. Gen 5 is when I got it, and that's when it became pretty good.
Okay, and so Politoed scalds a Chansey, so not going to be able to Hypnosis it. So Chansey going to have a free soft-boiled here. And Ferrothorn's taking a ton of chip. It hasn't clicked it's clicked knockoff once this entire game and done nothing else. So I expect to see ABR just go Xatu again, but goes Ninetales, trying to see if Dice goes something like Tornadus and catches it pretty successfully.
Dice is doing a pretty good job getting his harder hitters in. The issue is he has no rocks or anything up because of Xatu.
Yeah.
He hasn't done anything to stop the Xatu. So even though he's getting these good switches to reveal his damage setters, he's not getting any damage off. So he's just taking damage instead.
Yeah, I'd like to see a Chansey switch in here and then dodge 2 Hypnosises and try and get rocks up.
Oh, so his last was Ice Beam. I was going to say if he's an Encore, then it's not the worst position.
Okay, so yeah, Hypnosis goes off on that Chansey. It's going to sleep, but Natural Cure is going to make it so that Chansey's not really bothered by this. I think I'd like to see ABR just stay in and hope he wakes up turn 1.
That's probably what he's going to do.
Because if he wakes up turn 1, he gets rocks up, and that's just going to be excellent. I really do think ABR is in a fantastic position overall. Gliscor here or Ferrothorn? One of the two, surely. Yeah, you have Chansey as the special wall. You have 2 physical walls, and you have 3 Pokemon that are invested in Fizdef. Probably 4 Pokemon that are invested in Fizdef, but stays in the Chansey. Interesting. Doesn't get rewarded for it. But he thinks that this Excadrill is almost certainly Scarf, and that Dice has to go for a rapid spin there. It's way too punishing to Earthquake on the Xatu switch, so Dice definitely rapid spinning there, and ABR notices that, stays in with the Chansey, gets off the free Stealth Rocks, does 12% more of this Tentacruel, and that's permanent damage. Tentacruel cannot heal any damage that it takes from here on out because of that burn that it took.
Did he Scald?
What?
Just go for a Scald on the turn that you get no Wisp?
What? Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
I think he just went for a Scald. I don't agree with that. I think that Tentacruel was pretty important.
Yeah, and ABR had also already revealed Will-O-Wisp. Goes Ninetales on the spin, so Ninetales takes 1%, but ABR has been making it making this Ninetales very resistant. It's been toxic, but it doesn't take any damage because ABR switches it in, switches it out, and has been managing to preserve this Ninetales' health really well, never switching it in on damage. And I think you just go Xatu here. There's just no risk, and there's no risk in going Xatu, and like the reward is relatively high, and the punish for not going Xatu is immense. Yeah, I don't know how Dice breaks this, man.
Yeah, at first I thought like because he had Rain Dish on his Tentacruel always came in on the Chansey. But now that he lost the Rain Dish, it's like he has no killing on it.
Yeah.
And now every time it comes in, it's just going to take more damage. So it's just going to end with ABR winning unless Dice makes some big plays.
I'm not sure what kind of... So Tornadus is one of the big playmakers. But Dice didn't even go for... I don't know what moveset the Volcarona has. I assume it has a fire move. But I could be wrong. But if it had a fire move, Dice didn't stay in with +1 Volcarona on Chansey in the sun.
Actually,
so
the Chansey only has 8 soft boils left, and if Dice can just keep dishing damage out, then he'll run out of soft boils, and Chansey's is only a real good way of dealing with the
any special damage.
The Volt,
honestly.
Yeah, and the Thorn.
Okay, so you think what's happening right now is that Dice is...
Ooh. Well, he's knocked off too. Hold up. Okay, so that makes things a little interesting.
He knocked off the Xatu's leftovers a while ago.
Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't see that.
Yeah. It was before you got here.
Alright. That makes things a little more interesting because, you see, he still has 11 Hurricanes, so it's just going to give up the rest.
Okay, sure. I guess he didn't want Chansey to come in and get confused.
Yeah, I think that was safe.
On the switch-in. It would have given Dice 2 chances to confuse the Chansey with the 30% chance. So it would have been roughly a 15% chance of... 50% chance of Chansey getting confused, so it would have been like 25% chance for Chansey to get like knocked out there. And I think that ABR says, I don't want to risk that, and I need my Chansey at full health. But Dice is putting in a ton of chip into this Chansey. Really successfully. If he can keep spinning these spikes, I think Dice will be in a pretty solid position eventually.
I hope he's paying attention to the soft boil count. I think Dice is a good player. I'm sure he
Well, I'm not sure what else he could be paying attention to.
Well, in these kind of long games, you probably could be sitting here thinking like, oh, I can't break this Chansey unless like I get some sort of luck or something, or I get a lot of things going my way.
Yeah.
But
so here I'd like to see Dice
doing really well against it.
I'd like to see Dice go Excadrill, yeah. Just get it in on the chip. Because you don't want Tentacruel to take 25% for free. Especially considering that Tentacruel is at 36. So Tentacruel will be knocked out really fast. And ABR, just getting a Seismic Toss-Off on this Excadrill, probably going to Rocks this turn on Excadrill switch out, and then go into Xatu on the Ferrothorn. But went Ninetales on the Ferrothorn. If Ninetales gets knocked here, but ABR makes a fantastic read that Dice wasn't going to go for another knockoff and gets Ninetales in quite safely.
Yeah, getting his Tentacruel burned is
and that Protect
so
is
bad.
really powerful from ABR. Going to be able to either read the Excadrill staying in or the Excadrill switching out. Reads it staying in for the rapid spin, and loses 12 more % on his Ninetales. So his Ninetales went from 50 there to 18 overall, to 32 overall. So that was a ton of chip that ABR took on his Ninetales.
Getting these burns is actually really good for him, though. Like him having to switch in some Scald, getting burned afterwards, it's so nice.
Yeah, it's looking like my earlier diagnosis was wrong, and that Dice is actually in a pretty commanding position. Chansey's going to have to soft boil here. Yo, Nick, how you doing?
What's up?
I think Dice is winning. This is pretty aggressive, actually. I'm not sure Dice is winning anymore. But Dice
That
was
was a
winning
pretty
until he
aggressive
switched
switch,
in
but I
Excadrill.
kind of get it.
So now if ABR gets another layer of spikes,
There you go. That's
Excadrill is going to be in a really bad position. However, Hurricane Confusion here could be massive for Dice. There's a Confusion. Okay, Chansey gets a soft boiled off. But I think you just drop Hurricanes into the slot, and ABR doesn't have a switch. Right? The only Pokemon that can take Hurricanes on his team is Chansey. Cresselia got two-shot by them. And Zatu's Fizz Def invested. Gliscor, not as Spadef as it would be in Oros. Ninetales going to get knocked out. So Chansey switches out into Ninetales. ABR needs to dodge this Hurricane. Does dodge it. But I think Dice can go for a second shot. If ABR protects...
50-50.
Well, no. ABR just goes back into Chansey here, I think.
Yeah, it does.
And that was a massive dodge. So good switch from Dice getting in the Ferrothorn. Threatening the knockoff on the Chansey. Can use this opportunity to potentially go into Tentacruel. Or Excadrill.
You can't go Tentacruel.
Goes into Politoed. Just wants to fire off Scalds, because ABR doesn't really have a Scald switch in. As we saw, if Dice gets that burn, Chansey takes a ton of damage. Just goes for Hypnosis, wants to put in some chip.
So 19 Scalds versus 15 soft boils. Or not 15, 5.
Yeah, that's a lot for Dice. Gets an Excadrill. So I think we're going to see ABR stay in with Chansey again, but Earthquake's looking mighty threatening to me.
I don't think he can. If he stays in... Yeah, I was going to say, if he stays in, it's not going to be pretty.
And Excadrill goes for Rock Slide, predicting the Zatu. Strong play from ABR. And now ABR gets the spikes up, so I think Dice has to go Tentacruel here.
Or are you going to flinch him to death? Go for it.
Okay, but I think Dice has to go Tentacruel here.
Flinch him. I want Torn, wow.
On the Volt Switch, okay. This game is getting heated. This game is getting really heated. Fortress goes out into Chansey. Smart play. Now ABR is just going to want a soft boiled here. Torn gets a U-turn off. Smart. But there's no real switch in. I guess you go Ferrothorn on the Seismic Toss, or you can go Politoed.
Does he toss, or does he go for boiled? This is ABR. I think he soft boiled.
Yeah, I think you go Politoed on a soft boiled. I didn't like Dice going for Hypnosis, though. I guess Dice's idea is if I go for Hypnosis, I can force these weird positions, but I think you just want the Scald damage. The Scald chip seems so strong, considering the fact that Chansey's down to 5 soft boils now. But Dice has been taking a ton of damage and goes Tentacruel on the soft boiled, but that Tentacruel is going to get knocked out by a Seismic Toss.
Yeah,
I don't know about this one.
Once again, it goes back to if he didn't let his Tentacruel get burnt there, like the Scald, then this game would be basically his to win. But because he allowed it to get scalded, now it's looking pretty bad. I would get burnt, get wisped, I mean.
Yeah. He also let Excadrill take a ton of damage.
He did, but that was more or less because he had to. Okay, making big plays.
Okay, goes Moth on the Zatu switch. The Zatu switch was pretty telegraphed, but ABR made it anyway. Not a bad play by any means. No.
Levos with the, oh my god, how does he know?
It's pretty obvious.
How did Dice know this?
Okay, so Zatu switches back out into Chansey and Dice Quiver dances up. Surely this just isn't as good of a position as it was far earlier in the game. But we also don't know what the Volcarona's item is. Probably not Lumberry.
Yeah, I was kind of expected.
Yeah, so Ferrothorn comes in on that Toxic. And Dice is just healing up his Ferrothorn on the switches into Chansey. I think
if you're going to be making these kind of plays,
I'd like to see Dice knock this turn. Okay, what are you saying?
I was saying if you're going to make these kind of plays, you don't quiver, you go for damage, right?
Yeah, I think the Quiver Dance on turn 94 was a little bit questionable. I'm not really sure what the point was, like what Dice was getting out of Quiver Dance there. And Ferrothorn gets up
He
the
got the
rocks.
rocks!
Oh my god! But
I mean, it's not going to
Ferrothorn's
keep
in.
them, but...
Fortress is in, rather. I think you can spike here if Ferrothorn has it. You can also Leech Seed, but I like a spike.
No, I think you just straight up... I don't know, dude.
You could go No, you don't want to go Tornadus because the Volt
You
Switch
just
does
keep
so much
rocking?
damage. Yeah.
I think you just keep rocking. Yeah, you just keep going for it.
Yeah, because Rock's just so much to ABR's team.
Yeah, you're not...
Okay, and ABR gets up a layer of spikes. That's gonna stick. There is no...
Hold up. That was a good play. I didn't even think of that one. How much health is the... Ninetales still can come in. Okay.
Ninetales can come in, but it might get KO'd to Toxic if it switches in.
Well, the issue is, like...
It gets one more switch in.
Well, it's
Yeah,
32, but that might be 31.5.
Nope, it was enough.
Oh, and Leftovers goes first.
Alright, so this is a big deal. You gotta go for the Hypnosis. You're probably just gonna straight Torn, right?
You need to Hypnosis this Chansey. If you don't Hypnosis,
Oh,
it gets
yeah,
rocks
cool.
off.
He's going for it.
He got it. It goes Moth. So I guess you just say Chansey's max sleeping. I think Dice has kind of mismanaged his mid-game, and it's coming up right here. He needs to set up his Volcarona, and if Volcarona doesn't set up, I think the game is over. Chansey gets the 2 turn sleep?
No,
So-
that was a 3-turn sleep.
Was it?
Oh, he's working
Yeah,
on this
3
too,
turns sleep.
and it does nothing.
That burned us off well. That's so big. I want to
I
say
know,
that
I know.
this looks... Yeah. I want to say that this looks like Chester Resto Volcarona from the way that he's playing it, and just the way that he ate a Toxic. But he might just be going for it regardless.
I think he's going for it regardless. He avoided letting it eat a Toxic for a while, and I think right now Dice knows that he has to win this game like pretty soon. The only thing he has left going for him is Hurricane damage from Volcarona and from Tornadus, and Volcarona is not really allowed to switch out anymore.
How much did you take from Toxic?
I think if it was Chester Resto, he would not be Hurricaning. He would be Quiver Dancing.
I don't know, he might be going for confusion. Because, like, right now, all he's doing is forcing soft builds. Yeah, so that's another one down. If he's Resto, he's going to do it here.
Yeah, you have to rest here.
Because he's going to probably click...
It could be Bug Gem too. Bug Gem... Yep.
Okay, it was Bug Gem. Now, the issue is you have to go Torn.
Yeah, and you just try to confuse everything up. Okay.
Alright, it's over.
Didn't work.
Wait. Yeah, it's over.
Yeah, Chansey beats Ferrothorn. I think.
No, Chansey doesn't beat... Wait.
Chansey beats Ferrothorn.
So you switch... Oh, you don't switch Chansey out? You just eventually hope you soft-boiled? Okay, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, it's over now.
Yeah, so excellently played by ABR. The game was a lot closer than it looked like it was going to be, but Dice letting his Tentacruel get Will-O-Wisp was pretty awful, in my opinion. I think that's like probably the game-losing play, but nothing on the team really wanted to take a Will-O-Wisp, so it was pretty hard for Dice to play around that position.
I agree.
And choose to let his Tentacruel take the Will-O-Wisp as opposed to, say, Ferrothorn or and was scared of letting Volcarona take it. I think in that position you have to say, Volcarona doesn't do much this game, so I let Volcarona... If Volcarona takes a Flamethrower, you know, that's alright with me. And if Politoed has to take it, it's not great, but it's better than Tentacruel taking it, because you need your spinners to stay alive and healthy. And if your spinner is taking constant damage, not just on switch-ins, but just on every turn, it's not going to be healthy enough to contest the Chansey.
I think he kind of just mismanaged his early. Like he didn't think about the late game. I think maybe he thought that he needed to get the nine tails out of the way as fast as possible. When in reality, the nine tails was just going to die over time anyway.
Yeah.
So I think he kind of just thought about the late game kind of differently than he should have, and because of that, he thought maybe with double rock removal, he'd be fine.
But he
or
took
maybe
too much,
he even thought that he was going to switch, but you can't risk that kind of stuff.
He took too much damage on the Tentacruel and on the Excadrill, and then ran out of Pokemon to remove hazards, and then ABR eventually cleaned it up. Smooth work from ABR. I think he played pretty flawlessly. I can't really see many misplays in ABR's play. It just seemed like either he was going to lose because Dice managed the position well, or he was just gonna win over time. And I think, there are some types of teams where it comes down to whether your opponent can do it well enough, and ABR brought one of those. And he just clicked pretty safe plays every turn, didn't really make many mistakes, didn't really give Dice openings. And I preserved the Ninetales well, sacked Cresselia at an appropriate point, switched in Xatu effectively. I think it was overall quite well played.
Yeah, I agree for the most part. I think towards the end it was a little weird that he gave him the rocks.
Yeah, I guess his idea was, I'm going... oh, you mean on the spike term?
Well, he kind of just gave him the rocks because, he spiked, but then that gave the free sack into...
well, so I guess the idea that ABR had was that he couldn't... What else could he do? I guess he could have gone... So the rocks were up, and ABR's idea is that I can't keep spinning because his Ferrothorn didn't have leftovers, and it was just going to run into the barbs.
More along, he just gave him the rocks. He didn't just go Xatu.
Oh, you're saying he shouldn't have gone Ferrothorn on that turn?
Yeah, I think he just goes Xatu.
I guess the idea of Ferrothorn was to try and catch the Tornadus switch. Because Ferrothorn does a lot more to Tornadus than Xatu does. And he thought that Dice was going to try and catch him in that way.
I guess that's true.
I understand it, even if it didn't work out. I think mixing up your plays every once in a while is pretty good. And it just turned out that ABR mixed it up on the wrong turn. That happens sometimes.
There's a few weird things. This wasn't a team I usually expect to see from Dice. Dice usually runs more I don't know. It's more like he runs the kind of teams that are more balanced and they don't have this team's set goal was literally just I have double rapid spin. I get my rain up, and never let you get your hazards up, and then I just sweep one of my two special attackers.
Yeah.
Usually his teams are more I have my walls, I have my huge damage dealers, I have my setup for hazard and stuff, and then I have my last mon, which is usually the rain mon, the rain or the weather in general or something like that. Is there more balance of this kind of aggressive build that he's in?
Yeah. So this was a pretty early game this week. We're going to head out, but I'll try and catch as many games as possible for as many weeks as possible. I'll be gone this weekend, but definitely try and catch you guys next weekend for as much of this week as I can.